Good afternoon, everyone, and great to have you on this webinar on Men's Mental Health Month. So we're going to have spend the next minutes in a discussion on resilience and connection, building healthy masculinity in the context of mental health. So we have a panel, and I'll ask them to introduce themselves. We'll start with James. James, just in 1 or 2 minutes, you could just tell us your name and your connection to the topic at hand. Over to you. James, can you hear me? Maybe we could start with John Paul. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Maybe you could tell us just in a minute who you are and what you do and the connection with with mental health.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Paul Otieno. I am a counseling psychologist and a mental health advocate. So in with this particular topic, I'll be focusing on the psychological aspect of men and mental health. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John. Gibson.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gibson Maina. I am a human rights defender and a community organizer. I am also the coordinator of Mathare Infotech Lab, a community-based organization that facilitates the use of the internet and other ICTs for social justice and community organizing. I also serve in the Central Committee of Kongamano la Mapinduzi, national grassroots movement, social political movement. I am passionate about mental wellness. I have in my organizing, I have also, because of my many years in organizing, I have also developed a training called trauma-informed organizing that allows HRDs and community organizers to approach organizing in a manner that preserves the mental wellness and in a manner that promotes mental wellness. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gibson. Job. Job Mganga, are you there? Go ahead, Job.
Yes. Hello, hi. My name is Bob Mganga Mandembe. I am a visual storyteller and a podcaster at Jokofu Podcast. I'm particularly passionate about the boy child and everything to do with educating the boy child. Yeah.
Okay, thank
Looking
you.
forward to this conversation.
Thank you very much, Karibu. And last but not least, James. I hope you can now hear us.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone.
James, can you go ahead? Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I'm in the Bundus. The network here is very bad. I'm attending a fellowship program that I was part of. But my name is Alaman James. I convene the wellness committee under the Social Justice Centers Working Group. Yeah, and everything that concerns mental well-being of human rights defenders. That's where my passion lies, and I'm glad to be part of this discussion. Thank you so much.
Karibu Alaman, and also I wish to also recognize Nerea from Inuka and the Inuka team for bringing us together on this. I think this is the first of its kind in my memory in terms of convening HRDs in such a kind of forum to discuss mental health issues on mental health, Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. For the rest of the participants, maybe you could just do your introduction in the chat box so that we know who is here. The chat box is open there. So again, welcome. For the next few hours, we'll be able to discuss the topic on resilience and connection, building healthy masculinity. So let's start with some sobering truths about mental health in Kenya in relation to men. So as per the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, around 57% of Kenyans who are suffering from recognized mental health disorders are men, compared to 43% of women. Yet, one of the things that comes out is that men are less likely to seek help. The Ministry of Health reports suicide figures among men are consistently 5 times greater than among women, with an average of 4 people dying by suicide every day in this country. Looking at Nairobi alone, if you look at from the autopsy study, 90% of suicide cases, mostly men aged between 20 and 39. Globally, according to the WHO, 3 out of every 4 suicides are by men. And Africa region carries, if you look at in terms of the worldwide, the biggest suicide burden, if you take into account other factors, is 11 per 100,000 people. That's the challenge we have. That's just an illustration of the kind of challenge that we have, which also brings us today so that we have a discussion as to how do we address this very serious problem. What we need to ask is, what if strength is not about silence but about connection, resilience, not merely enduring alone but knowing when to reach out, then seeing how and we are of course not rejecting masculinity, but we are trying to redefine it, create a version of manhood that makes room for connection, for rest, for emotion, and for community. So how do we work that out in a way that builds our resilience in the case in the in the face of the adversities that we face as civic actors, as men in many spheres of life, so that then those really disturbing statistics in terms of suicide are addressed. So over the next less than 2 hours, we'll have a discussion with our distinguished panel. We'll explore the barriers that men face, the cultural forces that shape our attitudes, and the practical steps we can take as individuals, as communities, as institutions, as civic actors, to build healthier, more connected men in Kenya and beyond. We'll also have an interactive a discussion where you'll be able to pose questions to our panel. But I'd like to just start with speaking for the discussion and Job. I'd like to ask you, what are the biggest barriers men face in openly discussing mental health in our communities? And how do these barriers differ across generations? So, for example, the Gen Zs and some of my generations, the Gen X and millennials. What are the barriers that men face in openly discussing mental health issues, mental health challenges, and do these barriers differ as per the generation? Job, you'd like to go first?
Yeah, sure. I, as a Gen Z, am before actually we get to generational differences, I feel like stigmatization is the big issue here because most of us growing up as a man are told men are supposed to live this way, men are supposed to do this, men are supposed to behave in a certain kind of way. So now you realize the majority of what you're going to be told is not about you being vulnerable. It's about you standing up. It's about you playing the part, looking the part, and everything else. So now, when it comes to places where you as a man are lacking and need help, those are aspects of you that you are going to most likely look down upon them. So that makes mental, when you talk about mental health as a man, looks like something you shouldn't focus on. Why do you have a mental issue as a man? Then now when it comes to generational differences, I feel like I'd say the big issue when it comes to generational differences might be technology. Technology plays a big part in the sense that our generation, we spend a large chunk of our lives online more than in person with people. So now it happens that I might be following up someone's life. For instance, I'm still in tabs with guys we went to high school together, we went to college together, university together. Some of them have already made it, and when you look at that, that gives you some sort of pressure for you to also make it in life and look like you are making it. Well, in the real sense, you might not be there. So now that gives you some sort of pressure, which in terms, and with time, it might just be too much for you.
Yeah,
So I'd say
yeah, yeah.
majorly that can be like a generational difference for me.
Yeah, because if we look at the statistics we had earlier, the rate of suicide amongst young people is high. Your generation. So you're saying part of it is also exposure to social media and the pressures that come from that. Yeah. Thank you, Alaman. In your experience, you're of a slightly, you're not a Gen Z, but so you have a bit of experience. So in experience, issues around culture and tradition, what do those play in terms of attitudes towards mental health or cultures and tradition? And are there any strengths in our cultures that we can build on to promote mental health, especially amongst men? Alaman?
Thank you. In my opinion, I think culture has played a very big role in how men are supposed to handle certain issues and handle themselves or respond to certain things that happen to them. And so you find that there are things that are preserved. Or let's say the other gender, like you're not supposed to do this as a man. You're not supposed to cry. There are certain things you're not supposed to share, even if they are killing you. And so, and these things vary from culture to culture. You find in the Maasai there are certain things that you're supposed to do to prove that you are a man. For instance, they used to, go to in order for you to become a full Moran, you're supposed to sort of like kill a lion. Um, you know, probably the Luya community, you're supposed, for instance, for the initiation rites, you're supposed to go to the river. And so if you haven't gone to the river, they think of you as a lesser person. So there's this these cultural things that we grew up, learning about and hearing about from other cultures, and so they play a role in determining the kind of person we become, or the kind of people we become, the kind of men we become, the way we respond to issues, the way we raise our families. When you have a boy and you have a girl, there are certain house chores that are preserved for the girl. Then there are some that are preserved for the boy. As a boy, you're not supposed to go to the kitchen. The kitchen is a preserve for the girls. And so you find that raising up children in such a manner where yes,
I don't know
you
whether.
define the roles for them, it becomes very difficult for them to actually, I will say, adapt to the current trends, the way the world is changing. So you'll find that the way some of us were raised, it becomes very difficult to detach ourselves from such a concept because it's the way of life, it's the way we've grown up, and that is why at the moment most boomers, millennials feel like the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas uh, are rebels because they do not conform to our way of thinking. They have their own way of making their decisions. They are not moved, they are not swayed by how things have been done. And we find that to be very rude because we are used to submission. We are used to doing things the way we were told without questioning. And so that brings conflict because this new generation is dismantling all these stereotypes that we've grown up with. They are charting their own paths. They are demystifying some of these mysteries that were, hidden in the folk stories that we were told, in the cultural bit and aspect of it. And so I feel that at some point, we really need to have that discussion on, what are some of the cultural practices that we need to drop? What are some of them that we need to uphold, but make it clear so that we don't have cultural practices that were aimed at making oppressing people or oppressing a certain gender or making sure that we are uh, conforming to a certain way of life. And so I feel that there's need to have that conversation. And I feel that is why some or many men are not able to open up because of the perception and the way society has put them on a pedestal and the way society has defined how we are supposed to act, how we are supposed to respond to issues, and how we are supposed to be resilient as men. We are not supposed to show weakness. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. So thank you very much on that. But just a follow up to Alaman. Are there any specific cultural strengths that we as men can build on? Do you like have any examples of, uh, of positive culture or
Yeah, yeah,
cultures? Yeah.
yeah. Like in my culture, in my culture, I'm Luo. One of the cultural practices that I really uphold and think that is a good idea is that me being a firstborn in my family, of course I have siblings. So there's a cultural practice that says my sibling, my younger brother cannot start his own boma or build a house before I have built mine. And so what that brings is that, and I've seen it in our culture where the siblings come together and help each other. Like my younger, even though they might be wealthier or they might be having more resources than I have, but we'll help each other to make sure that I have built my own place or my homestead, and then he does the same up until the younger brother. So I think some of these practices, at least, they make sense because what happens is if the youngest sibling is able to, if roles were changed and it will be okay for them to start a homestead, then what that will bring is that it will bring rivalry. It will bring financial discrimination because you'll be like, he's the eldest. Why is he not having a place of his own? So some of these cultural practices, they are aimed at making sure that the ecosystem is balanced so that there is no conflict because of probably financial status or opportunities that people are able to, people are exposed to in the course of their lives. So I think for me, that is one of the positive cultural practices that I embody. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And talking about solidarity and mutual aid as one of the ways for dealing with some of the challenges that we as men might have. Um, Gibson, you talked about the kind of work you do in terms of organizing for civic actors and training and all that. So how can civic actors, organizations, movements, formations create safe spaces for men to reflect and connect without being judged? Gibson, how do we create these safe spaces where men can reflect and connect in a way that doesn't feel they're either being diagnosed or they're being judged?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. And maybe just to tie my previous speakers' thoughts into what I'll be speaking on. I'd like to mention something in regard to the barriers that men face. I don't know about the statistics you gave, if they have any variations in regard to what happens, a comparison between cities and villages. Where do you think there are more suicide in cities than there are in villages? I don't know if that the numbers that you have can answer that, because I'm thinking one of the barriers that men are facing is the urbanization and cities, the creation of cities, where you find that it's almost impossible for you to create long-standing relationships with people around you. In the neighborhood that you live in, you are the only one, you only have one friend or two friends. So there is that absence of collectivity. Another thing is in regards to cultural practices that perhaps can be able to help in regards to creating this environment where men can be able to face or to engage with mental wellness is the issue to do with uh, the issue to do with collectivity, like our cultural practices, some of our traditional cultural practices, most of our cultural practices were a measure of our collective strength, collective work, collective responsibility, collective care, collective. A lot of things were done out of collectivity. There was little of individualism unless you are taking your self-care and all of that. But in terms of care, in terms of responsibility, there was a lot of spreading out this care, spreading out this responsibility so that no one individual feels overwhelmed or no one individual feels like they are a failure or they are weak because they are unable to withstand the pressures of the times. In terms of creating safe spaces where men can be able to speak and to speak confidently and to engage authentically, I believe it will first need to be, if, for example, it's within a community, it's members within that community among themselves. What I'm trying to say is that there is a need of peer-to-peer. Like if you are bringing a man in a situation or where he's not unequal to the people around him, to the peers around him who are advising or who are in that space, then it becomes a problem. But if you were to put them where he's talking among his peers, he's being judged with among his peers, then it becomes a little bit easier for someone to open up, because you can relate with whatever is happening. And also there is also a need to make these safe spaces not something that you have to come out of your community to go out there to get. Reduce that need to have that space between where you are and where you are situated and where your life is and where your living experiences are and where that safe space is. If it's possible, can we create those safe spaces right there within those communities, within our lived experiences? And one way I think we can be able to do that is by, I don't know, introducing practices, habits, or rituals within our community or within our collectives or within our spaces that make it a joy to share the struggles that you are going through, to share the pain that you are going through, and make it the problem that you're facing is not unique to you, and it's not as a result of your failures as an individual. A lot of these spaces need to also recognize, if you are going to create these spaces, you also need to recognize what is the real reason or what is the underlying reason, root causes of all this mental breakdown that we are facing, and also approach these things from that corner so that you are authentic even to the people that you are facing or people that you are trying to intervene in. Yeah, that's basically what I would like to say.
Yeah, so thank you very much. So, safe spaces that are within the proximity where civic actors organize, or operate, or live, safe spaces that are accessible in cooperation of practices and ritual, but also looking at the root causes of some of the mental health challenges and distress that we face as men. Thank you very much, Gibson. So now we've heard from civic actors and community organizers. Maybe it's time to also get a perspective, a clinical perspective from the psychologists. John Paul, research, and we've heard from the rest of the panel that men are less likely to seek help when they have mental health concerns. From a psychological perspective as a practitioner, and then I'm guessing that you also have male clients in your practice. What strategies can reduce this reluctance, especially in our context? We've seen issues around intergenerational barriers. We've seen cultural barriers. We've seen issues around stigma. We've seen so many other issues. So from where you stand and from your experience, how do we get men to seek help in whatever form? It could be in a clinical setting. It could be peer-to-peer help. It could be in the safe spaces. It could be in whatever form. Um, how do you address this reluctance of men to seek help, especially in our context?
Thank you. Thank you. I'd first begin by adding my voice on what my colleagues have shared, especially in terms of the barriers that makes men feel reluctant in seeking help. And just to emphasize on the aspect of culture that my colleagues have talked about. And in the psychological perspective, just I don't want to focus on culture just in a tribal perspective, but I want to look at culture in a broader setup, because when we talk of culture, we have culture in different perspectives. Many a times when people talk about culture, they only think about where they're coming from, the tribal factor. But we have like generational culture, we have institutional culture, we have community culture, we have family culture, and all these contributes in preventing men from seeking help. So when we talk about culture, we can look at it in terms of barriers like stigma, whereby people are given are labeled. People are labeled like that person who seeks help. is mad. You hear the term wazimu. Um, we label them as weak, especially men. When a man seeks help, we label them as weak. We label them as crazy people. So in all these different perspective of culture, even at a generational level, let's say like a Gen Z generation, whenever someone comes out to speak, they maybe he will be referred to as a weak individual. Still on the culture, as men, we are meant to be strong. That's what they tell us, that men are meant to be strong. Men don't cry. Um, and we are always told and will always be encouraged that prayer is just enough. And we are always told that we don't have to air and talk about our issues in public. So the strong culture, be strong culture, is also affecting us as men. There's also another culture of the aspect of spirituality, where everything is spiritualized. If you're going through challenges, if you're going through issues, then it is deemed as demons. It is deemed as witchcraft. It is deemed as weak faith, and all these, including another aspect of collectivity, whereby um, what we always ask ourselves, what will the community say about us? When we seek help, how will the community view us? How will it affect our reputation as a family? If someone goes or sought for help. So those are some of the cultural perspective that I can talk about. But now to your question, what are some of the strategies that can help us address this? The first one I'll talk about challenging the mental health stigma. We are encouraged as individuals to be able to promote the messages that um, normalizing men to seek help. We need to encourage them by affirming them and telling them that seeking help is a sign of strength. Seeking help is taking responsibility, and seeking help is is courage. When you go for help, when you talk to someone, then you are courageous enough to work on yourself. Um, we are also supposed to encourage open discussion about mental health issues, especially within our family setups. This is an issue that many people avoid in a family setup. So we need to avoid talk about mental health issues in a family setup, at our workplaces, in our churches, faith communities, and even in our various social group setups, and also share successful stories of people who've gone through mental health issues and they've been able to overcome after seeking support. They have been able to recover. They've been able to overcome their challenges. So that is one of the strategies that can help us reduce this. Two, we also need to increase the mental health literacy, whereby we are come up with education program about common mental health conditions that affect people. Conditions such as depression, anxiety, substance use disorder, and even stress. Um, so this will help men to recognize even some warning signs in themselves and others, and also be able to provide information through different groupings, different channels that men associate with, like workplaces. Men like doing sports. You can always share this information in sport arenas, sports clubs, in community groupings, and even the most important area that we can also pass this information is through our social media media handles where you use your social media to pass mental health information. The third one, I also feel that it is high time we start redefining the term masculinity, because when you talk about masculinity, it encourages healthier view in terms of how you handle your emotional expression. When we talk about men, we always say that men are weak emotionally. Uh, but we need to redefine this by telling, affirming and reaffirming that men are human too, and they can reach a point where they are able to express myself. Men also do cry. Men also do express themselves. So let's redefine this by encouraging emotional expression, self-awareness. Self-awareness is key because we always believe that self-awareness is the heartbeat of therapy. It is the heartbeat of knowledge. So when you are aware of yourself, then you can easily seek help. And just to mention a few other areas is by through creating male-friendly services, male-friendly services where they will feel comfortable, places where they can always express themselves and share freely without fear, places where they'll get practical examples and solutions, focused approaches that may be very appealing to men, and places where they are assured of confidentiality and respect. So we need to create male-friendly services. Maybe just to add some other areas like having a leverage workplace program, encouraging families and communities also to support, and also coming up with a strong support system. A strong support system could be within your family setup, could be within the community setup, could be within the church setup, and even the workplace setup. So we need to encourage and help them come up with a strong family a strong family, a strong support system within their environment.
Thank you very much, John Paul. Seeking help is not is strength, not weakness. Um, Also, having these discussions in our family, communities, and areas where men converge, and then also male friendly, which I think is very key. Male friendly services and support systems that men are able to access, taking into account all the other factors. Um, still on uh, John Paul, from a professional perspective. You talked about masculinity, which is, of course, our theme here. Um, and we've all talked about the societal expectations, the gender expectations of masculinity. Um, how from your experience, how does this contribute to stress, depression, or burnout amongst men? Um, Societal expectations, societal pressures, and how does this manifest across generations? If you have that perspective.
Thank you. There's a lot of societal expectation when it comes to masculinity that will always lead to depression, that will always lead to stress and other mental health issues. As you said, others have said, traditionally, men, we are taught to be, or we are always pushed to be strong. We are pushed to be self-reliant. We are pushed to be emotional to have that emotional control, and even to be success. Uh, and sometimes these things affect us inwardly, they affect us unknowingly. So one of the areas, what happens is that through this societal expectation, we always undergo through a lot of pressures. And when we undergo through these pressures, then we suppress our emotions. Um, um, we are always informed, as men in the society are informed that they should not express themselves. They should not be sad. They should not express that they fear. Because it is a sign of weakness. So as a result, we end up bottling up our emotions instead of talking about them, instead of processing them. Um, and this leads to the increase in stress and emotional distress. And it's very hard. It's likely that men will seek help when they undergo this. So pressures within the society to suppress our emotions. There's also a lot of expectation on us as men to be providers. Uh, in a normal setup, African setup, and culturally, men are always looked at as the financial or providers for their families. So when they undergo through economic difficulties, when they undergo through unemployment, when they have pressures, workplace pressures, no one cares because people feel like you have to do to be this, and this can always lead to chronic stress. It can lead to worry. It can lead to failure, feeling of failure and inadequacy, and even risk of having burnout and depression. um, I read somewhere that men are the greatest liars in the community. Why do we say that men are the greatest liars in the community? Coming from a family, people expect a lot. People expect you to be a provider. People expect you to be the sole breadwinner, where you provide food, you provide everything. But at this point, you are unemployed, you are going through difficulties, but you also want to make other people around you happy. So what will you do? You will lie. And lying does not mean only lie through the verbal. You can lie through your expression. You will always say that I'm expecting something tomorrow, so just give me this, I'll be able to do it. So it's about that pressure that we get because we are providers. Um, Men also fear being seen as weak creatures. Um, and this will always also again delay the treatment in the mental condition, or even worsen the condition and even the risk. When you fear seen as weak, then one can easily end up resorting to negative coping strategies like involving substance abuse as a coping mechanism. There's also unrealistic standard of success because society often measures men's worth through achievement. Your success is seen through what you've achieved in terms of income, sorry, in terms of your status, in terms of your physical strength. And constant pressures to these standards will always result into one trying to be perfectionist. Um, and these may end up leading to work-related burnout and even low self-esteem. So there are other factors that can be associated to that, which also include risk-taking and unhealthy coping mechanism. Men are known as risk takers, and again, um, with this, they'll find themselves being aggressive in terms of their behaviors and also avoidance of their emotional issues. And being a risk taker, sometimes they end up overworking themselves, which can also lead to burnout. And at the end of it may also result to adapting another unhealthy coping mechanism as alcohol and substance abuse. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, John, for that elucidation. Um, for the audience, the chat box is open. Please kindly, if you recently joined us, kindly introduce yourself on the chat box. And as you introduce yourself, there's a question for the audience. What are some of the personal and community practices you've seen that encourage men to open up or to seek help? So share. That's a question for the audience. So the question is, what are some personal or community practices you've seen that encourage men to seek help or open up? Please share in the chat as you introduce yourself if you haven't introduced yourself. So coming back to uh, job, there's some initiatives that are being done by civic actors. Um, but beyond, and one of them, of course, is such webinars on mental health, men's mental health month. But apart from this kind of events like the one you're having today, what are the um, practical steps that we as men, as communities, as civic actors can take to normalize conversations about men's well-being, and especially from your perspective as a Gen Z your generation, like what would be the practical steps that could work for you? Not recognizing that there might be intergenerational barriers in terms of men discussing, having normalized conversations about our well-being, our mental health, our distress, and such kind of issues.
Thank you. So let me just repeat the question so that you tell me if I have gotten it right. You have asked some of the steps you can take as, particularly as a Gen Z, in order to normalize or change the narrative that is there with regards to masculinity.
Yeah, and then basically also mental health and well-being. Like, how can we talk about? You had John Paul saying that we need to create these spaces where men can speak openly about their mental health and how it relates to issues around masculinity. So, for example, for your generation, what would be the practical steps we can take to normalize these conversations? Like, what kind of spaces, what kind of approaches?
I'd say such conversations are really important because now coming from the, the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha, particularly a young generation coming up. So that means that we are looking up to the older generations for advice and everything. Be it advice or just how people are living, then we borrow that. So I feel like having such conversation is one way to have it, one way to guide us through that. Another way to do that is also having mentors. If we can have mentors, for instance, in the small community, at the community level, mentors would go a long way to help shape the new narrative that we are trying to create. Because now as a Gen Z or as an individual, I'm looking up to someone that I feel like they are in the right space in society. So I can be able to reach out to them and ask, how do you maneuver this situation? How did you go about this time when you, for instance, you are facing financial difficulties? For instance, when you're facing difficulties at your workplace, relationship wise, that could really help us because that is someone who's now holding your hand at the community level. So it really would help. Yeah.
Okay, I'd ask the same question to Alaman. Alaman, what would be the practical steps to normalize conversations around masculinity and well-being and mental health for men? How does that look like from where you sit as a civic actor, and the work that you do and the organizing that you do in your organizing, in your other spaces?
Can you repeat the question again? My network is very unstable. I was getting it in bits.
Oh, sorry. So the same question I asked Job is that what are the practical steps that we can take as men and as civic actors in our organizing, in our communities, to normalize conversations about our well-being as men and use around masculinity and how that relates to our concept of masculinity? What practical steps do you think we can take to normalize these conversations?
All right, thank you. I think practically one of the things we should be able to do is uh, find, as men, should find a hobby, something that you do to relax your mind when you're not working, something that excites you, something that you look forward to. Because I've realized for us men, a lot of our time is involved around either working, trying to chase the paper, and if you're not chasing the paper, our way of unwinding is going to the pubs and the bars and taking two, and then going back to the same challenges. Because one of the things I came to realize is that taking one or two for the road is good, but most of the time it is not. Uh, I would say it is not something sustainable, because in the long run, if it's because you're running away from something, at the end of the day, um, when it wears off, it's still there. So one of the practical things would be, yes, find a hobby, find something you love doing and engage in it. The other thing will be to sometimes just, you know, switch the phone off, just have time for yourself. Um, because I've also realized a lot of our time is consumed through electronics and technology. So you find that we have no time for ourselves and our minds and our thoughts, yeah, and just to get that clarity that we need sometimes to get through things. So it is one of those things that uh, are getting to learn. Of course, it's not easy, especially because you realize also this technology and the phones is sort of like an addiction. So for you as a man to just stay away from your phone for even 20 minutes is usually very, very difficult. We always have our phones with us. So sometimes it's just taking time off, switching off the phone, bonding with nature sometimes. And I've realized it brings some clarity, just getting some fresh air, moving out of the city, because being around the city and that hurry that is in, let's say, Nairobi, sometimes clogs our mind. We are always just thinking along that particular locality where is wake up in the morning, beat traffic, rush to work, then come back, or the noise, the matatus, and on repeat and on repeat. But you realize when, for instance, like where I am right now, it is just nature. The air is very fresh. You can take a walk and just refresh your mind. You don't have to think about uh, how you're going to get home, the noise, and etc. The other thing as well, the practical thing would be, uh, you know, sort of like having accountability uh, people, like an accountability person, where you can, this is somebody that you can, somebody who keeps you in check, somebody who can listen to you, somebody who will be very uh, genuine with you, will be very sometimes I will say outright with you, brutal sometimes, but they will keep you on track if something, if you're going through a phase, if you need if you need someone to talk to, because at the end of the day, uh, for men it's very difficult to open up, because sometimes you find that then you need to identify the kind of people you're opening up to, because you realize sometimes you open up to someone, somebody just wants to listen to you so that they can go and share with someone else. Some other person will listen to you and then say, kunywa bia, tasahau shida zako. Somebody is willing to buy you alcohol, but will not solve the problem that you are actually there for. And so it is very important for us to identify people who will actually listen to you, people who will actually take their time and, be able to try. And even if they will not help you solve the problem, but they will journey with you, they will try, they will take it like their own. And once you have such kind of people, it's very easy to navigate. Because as men, we fear to open up because of the stigma that comes with it. You don't want to open up to Odhiambo today, when tomorrow you hear Gibson talking about it. You see, once that happens, there's something that it does to a man. It it makes them shut down completely. Because as men, we don't like. First of all, we don't like sharing what we are going through, and the fact that we've shared it with you in we shared it with you in private, and then I hear it from another quarter, then it brings distrust. So I will not be able to open up again next time to anybody else. And what does that mean? That means that whatever I'm going through will continue eating me up until it gets to a certain point where I cannot take it anymore. So for me, those are some of the practical things that I feel we could do. And
Okay.
continuously just try to develop yourself, cultivate yourself, make strides, do something new, you know, even if you have the opportunity, get those try to apply for those scholarships, those fellowships, something that will actually bring you out of that particular environment. And if you meet other people, maybe, just maybe, it will open you up to new opportunities and new ways of coping with some of these
Yeah.
issues. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alaman. Yeah, so accountability partners, getting hobbies and stuff to do individually or communally, just basic stuff that don't need a lot of financial or other resources. Gibson, I'll pose the same question before we come to our audience in terms of questions. I've posted a question on the chat. Please kindly, if you could respond to that question, we'll open up the floor in a few. Gibson, what practical steps in your organizing? You talked about the toolkit organizing in terms of issues around trauma and that kind of thing. How do we um, as organizers normalize conversations about men's well-being beyond just one-off events? How do we integrate this into our work, right? So that it's part of our advocacy, our organizing, all that we do?
Yes. Thank you. In terms of practical steps, I can start with practical steps like for community organizations or collectives or groups of men when they meet. Some of the practical steps will be the same way you start a meeting with a prayer. Perhaps one other way that you could start your meeting is also with a welfare check. Can you make it a custom or a culture that it is okay to open up during this welfare check to say and to talk about what you're going through? In this way, you normalize talking about whatever problem that you're going through. You normalize hearing other people talking about the problems that they are going through and also the solutions that they might have used in one way or another. Apart from practical steps, there is also the issue of the question of safe spaces. We talk a lot about creating safe spaces in where we work, like in workspaces. But we rarely talk about the family setting. And I want to borrow this from the doctor. How about introducing this welfare check or this emotional check or this reflection within the family setting? How often does within the family setting, the place where you go back after your work or at night, the place where you go, how do you institute that in your family setting, that there is that custom of asking, how are you doing? What has been, has your day been? So that you are able to get in touch with whatever everyone else in the family is going through and be able perhaps to be of help to whoever is going through that space. So we've talked about safe spaces at workspaces, safe spaces at a family setting. Perhaps the most important one that we keep overlooking is safe spaces within ourselves. Are we ourselves a safe space? Are we ourselves in the way that we think, in the practices that we have, in the habits that we have, safe to our own selves, in the way that in the kind of relationship that we have with ourselves? So if you're having a welfare check at your work, you're having a welfare check with at a family setting level, can you have that kind of reflection or reflection within yourself around how are you actually doing? And how is this habit or how is this practice or how is this relationship ruining or helping me work out or build on whatever that I have? So the thing is, and I think the most important thing that we need to take out of this is that all this we're talking about practices, cultures, these are not permanent and they're not static. These are things that can be amended, that can be changed. And also the whole purpose of man is to evolve into a better person or into a better, in your own practice, in your own living, what are you shedding? What loads are you shedding? What kind of baggage are you shedding? Or heavy things that you are carrying are you shedding to allow yourself to live the kind of life that is the maximum limit? So practices, when you think about practices, think about the practices that you indulge in at the workplace, perhaps in your relationships, the relationships that you have, the kind of relationships that you have. If the last relationship you had, and because of the kind of relationship you had this kind of depression or anxiety or whatever, perhaps that's not a wise thing to repeat the same thing. So you want to have that level of clarity within your workspaces, within your relationships, but also with yourself and in the habits that you have, in the practices that you have. Find out what, like Comrade Alaman was saying, find out what works for you. Is it a long walk? Is it watching a movie or whatever? But do recognize and do be honest with yourself that this is not a good coping mechanism. Alcohol is not a good coping mechanism. Drugs is not a coping mechanism. Be honest to yourself that that is the true nature of that thing. So refocus yourself more on the kind of relationships that you have with others, the kind of relationship that you have with yourself, and the kind of aspirations you have with your in life, so to speak.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gibson. Yeah, so the simple things that we can do, also echoing Alaman, but also I had, are you yourself a safe space before you even talk about external safe spaces. At this point, I'd like to see what's on the chat. Uh, so Thomas says main reason for suicide is escape from apparent pressure, socioeconomic, mental and health challenges, individualism and lack of communal support, mentoring and nurturing, perception of poverty and actual poverty. Yeah, and was it Gibson who asked about the rates of suicide in Kenya? Yeah, yes. So I also work in suicide prevention. I'm a member of the National Suicide Prevention Committee, the Ministry of the Ministry of Health, and one of the the statistics show the highest suicides are in the Nyeri, Muranga, Nyandarua area, and the eastlands part of Nairobi. If you now want to break it up, and part of what you're trying to do is figure out what exactly is happening. We have Thomas again. The practices are more of fantasies here for in Kenya for majority. Esther, as Kakamega Community Center, we leverage on arts and sports to provide a safe space for men. Great. We hope to hear about that from you. Thomas again, poverty and pursuit to eke out a living has preoccupied masses to the ignorance of mental health. Thank you. Then again, Thomas, forums like this one with long-term perpetual actionable support, noted. Francisco, activity-based sharing such as yoga, collective workouts, sports, working on projects, building emotional vocabulary. Most men find it easier discussing events than emotions. Men need to learn how to identify feelings precisely: frustration, disappointment, anxiety, lonely, hopeful. This can help them improve self-awareness and communication. Thank you, Francisca. Cynthia, I've seen having an accountability partner is a way of getting men to speak because this person checks on you on a daily basis. And another one is that in our center, we have a wellness pillar where members of that pillar checks on everyone. And if someone is going through something, they open up to whoever they trust or feel comfortable with it in the pillar. And the last one is that we have counselors at the center. And if you feel that you are not okay, you can go talk to them. And I feel like it works for both the center and community. Thank you very much, Cynthia, for sharing those practices. Francisco saying, in terms of the issue about opening up, he says, opening up to your wife, I'm a girlfriend, the person you trust, then unasikia story yako ni nje, ngori. Then Robert, there is a space for introduction. I wonder if there's a room of person may share a case of a young man who has a mental breakdown and who needs a rescue. He was burned by a family living in a pathetic situation. Ngong, I don't know, maybe Robert, you might take up that with the Nerea, see what can be done. Again, Robert, I wish to appreciate the presentation being the first time of the Thank you very much. So I'd like to open up, and then the Inuka team can help me unmute them. I'd like to, maybe you could raise your hand if you have any comment or question to the panel. So far, we are roughly just over halfway our session. So we want to make this an interactive session. So I'd like to open up the discussion. Just raise your hands up on the raise your hand up, and I think you'll be given an opportunity to speak. And the Nuka team at the back, you can help me with unmuting them. Anybody who has a question or a comment, this is your time. Kindly use the raise hand. If you want to speak, kindly use the raise hand feature. It's on the React on the React Michelle Blessings. Are you unmuted? You do have to speak. Sorry, I got logged off. Sorry, I got logged off. Sorry. Um, Robert, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And most of all, I wish to thank the presenters, the facilitators for this kind of sharing. For me, it's really helping. And being a mentor of Beacon Boys, I find it really worthy an input to my point of view. I want to appreciate all the given conversation. I've received a lot and I really appreciate. And again, as a mentor with the parish level, I see our young people, they really deserve such a kind of input and such a kind of awareness because they are growing up and most of them, they are really vulnerable for this information because they are targets of the society, of the community, being challenged by the ladies for this matter. And because we are talking about the equity, the equality, the gender, and you find the boy child is really vulnerable at the moment, and we are trying to raise their esteem in facing the reality of the world today. We have seen the several cases which are happening in our society, people being victimized, and most so as our area, Umoja 1, we have seen some cases of young boys being victimized, even killing one another because of this lower self-esteem or engaging themselves in drugs abuse because they want to find recognition or they want to find a space in the society. And because they hardly find it, they use it in the wrong way. So I think this conversation is really timely and very important if we can engage more in with our young boys and even young men in the society. Thank you so much, and I appreciate.
Thank you very much, Robert, for that. I saw your issue on the chat, but unfortunately, because I got logged out, uh, I, I've lost the chat. So I think we maybe you could just maybe you could just share your email and someone I think will reach out to you. Anybody else with a question before we go to the next round? And in the next round, we are going to focus on the coping mechanisms available for men. So the panel, just be prepared to discuss the coping mechanisms that men are available for men. Any other question? And unfortunately, because I got logged out, I've lost the chat, so I can't see what was said previously. But if in case you've just joined us, just introduce yourself for the record. Any other any other intervention or comment? I'm going to provoke you. Yeah. Yes.
Yes. My name is Esther Nyangoliwat from Kakamega. I work with an organization called Kakamega Community Center, and one of the thematic areas that we have is mental health. Now, there's one thing that I feel like I would want to speak on, and that is families. You see, back at home when you're raised, as ladies, we are given some special sort of a treatment. We are treated in a softer kind of way compared to men. So these men grow up knowing that, you see, in life we must be hard, we must be toughened up, we must be the hard people, and this is one of the reasons that's why you find it hard for men to open up. The other day, I think it was last week, we had a conversation with Maskani Hub Kakamega, and one of the things that they were talking about is matters men's mental health. And then one of the speaker asked, How many men here can just genuinely just hug their fellow men and tell them that I love you? And most of them could hear them saying, that is not man behavior. Huyo si mwanaume anataka kuhug mwenzake. You see such types of conversations. You find that now men can just come out and be those safe spaces for their fellow men. I think that is my contribution on the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Esther. Thomas, go ahead. Thomas Odur, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Sorry, I think I did not unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you can, yes.
All right. Well, my thought is very simple. Nobody commits suicide for fun. And the key thing here to look at is there is something that is pressurizing and pushing people to the brink to actually go and off themselves. So what is the root cause of these things? What is the root cause? That should be our focus. What is the root cause? Is it poverty? Is it a mental issue? Is it emotional challenges? Are we lacking mentorship and proper nurturing? We need to look at the key root causes of this, because in absence of doing so, we will try and cure this by going straight to solutions and not addressing the main issues at hand. For instance, if poverty is the main issue, if we were to find a way to kind of alleviate poverty eventually, and maybe gradually or maybe fast enough, I think you'd see results. You talked of areas whereby suicide is rampant. You mentioned central Kenya, parts of central Kenya, and you mentioned Eastlands in Nairobi. And if you look at the commonality of these areas, you'll find that the key issue here, especially in Eastlands, would be poverty. Yeah. So I think the main issue here is, let's look at the root causes. What are the challenges in terms of societal pressures, and for the youth especially, the Gen Zs, the so-called Gen Zs? Is it that they are getting so much pressure to live a lie? Because if you look at the trends nowadays, people are really trying to live lives that may be beyond their means, yeah, and trying to fit in causes undue pressure, and eventually you find people getting into situations that end up in what we are seeing now, the suicide rates that are escalating. So I think our main issue here would be, let us sit down, look at the roots. What are the roots? Where did things fall apart? And we look at these causes and find ways of addressing them.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Looking at the root causes are very, 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 very crucial. Understanding what drives some of these issues that men have. Esther talked about something which I've seen is being debated on the chat about which also and as we come back to our panel, I'd like us to address as talk about the coping mechanisms available for men. Talked about the example about the hug and men not totally embracing that kind of thing, and I've seen Miller is saying that there are many ways, and he's sort of saying that maybe doesn't work. So for the panel, and I'll start with Alaman. First is as we talk more about the coping mechanisms available for men, then link it to the issue about gender differences in ways in which men seek help, because part of the research and some of the studies have shown that, for example, men might not be comfortable in one-to-one context where they maybe they talk to one person one-to-one, but seek more in terms of seeking help in a context where they can talk about their issues, but in the context of other activities. So, for example, in sports, doing other things, rather than just one-to-one saying, "Okay, I have an issue. I've come to talk to you." But like men, talk are able to talk about their issues when they're doing something else, maybe a hobby or a sport or something else. Then the other thing is the way men express uh, uh, express the way the symptoms or the distress in men presents, issues around anger, irritability, risk-taking behavior, driving dangerously, that kind of thing, or even alcohol and substance abuse. So that's another thing. And then also around uh, uh, how who are we most likely to confide in? Is it your partner or somebody you're close to, or other men or whoever? So that's in terms of that context. Do men so that then we because we're also trying to locate this within our own masculinities and societal expectations. How do we maneuver that so that then we don't put pressure on men to um, engage in help-seeking behavior that might put them make them to be seen to be not masculine or that or weak or that kind of thing, because we are very sensitive to that. So Alaman, as we speak about that, also how men seek help, and also the kind of coping mechanisms that are available then to support men. So I'll start with Alaman and then the rest of the panel. I don't know whether you've understood the question. If Alaman is maybe having network challenges, you could go to Gibson, then Job, and John in that order. Then you come back to Alaman. Gibson?
In terms of safe spaces, oh no, coping mechanisms
Yeah, so
for men.
coping mechanisms, that's one. The other aspect is that as we also address the coping mechanisms, do men seek help in a different way, navigating the societal expectations about masculinities?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
In terms of coping mechanism, if we were to start with the difference between what we see happening with our women folk and what we see with our men folk, is that the difference, I believe, and the richness of what the women folk are doing is in their social approach of mental wellness. It's a social issue for them, or they approach it in a social way, perhaps even by default without even knowing. These jamas that they belong to, these groups of friends that they spend time with, that's where they unburden, that's where they talk of things that they are going through, and also get wisdom or advice on where to go to. So there is that aspect of a social approach to mental wellness. How do we make it about not an individual, but a social grouping, a way of you interacting with other group of people, so to speak. But the social approach also has another problem, which is now we don't want to have a situation where one solution fits all. We want to approach it based on an individual, of course, based on science, but also based on an individual. You don't expect the same coping mechanism of an introvert, the same mechanism for an extrovert. What works for an extrovert may not necessarily work for an introvert. So I think it begins by self-reflection. You will really need, as a man, to know yourself, to know your limits, to know what you're about. In that way, in knowing yourself, then you are able to know what works for you, even in terms of when you are stressed out. How did I react the last time I was stressed out? What benefit did I get by doing that? If you have anger issues, how do you cope with those? And you will never see yourself as having anger issues unless you are deliberately and intentionally reflecting on yourself and looking at your behavior with others and the way people associate with the things that you are doing. So as a man, knowing yourself and starting a journey of and being based from a journey of authenticity and honesty with yourself, because they say that be careful about the preaching of other people, the preaching that you hear out there, so that you don't fall into a cult or whatever. But what about the preaching that you do to yourself? What do you preach to yourself when you are alone? So in terms of coping mechanism, it will have to be to start from who you are as an individual and what works for you, what you are comfortable with, and then it also coping mechanism is also about discovery and being curious. What else can I use this spare time with apart from? So you can discover new hobbies, you can discover new things that you can like, or new things that you can enroll in. So yeah, I think for coping mechanism, it will have to start by yourself, by self-reflection, and by a thorough audit of your history, of your past behavior, past mistakes, past blunders, and then finding ways that corrects your ways and corrects your future movement.
Thank you very much, Gibson. So I'll go to the same question to Job. What would be um, the available coping mechanisms for men, taking into account that we may we the way we seek help differs. Gibson talked about how women have integrated integrated helps or coping or help seeking in terms of their ordinary activities that they do in the chamas and whatnot. How does this look like for men and especially for young men? Please unmute, Job. Please unmute.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. Sorry. Thank you very much. I'd begin with a statistic that says that there's been a recession of friendships since 1990. So friendships, particularly for men. So that means that if we were to go back and start to see how we can improve this number, then we can be solving a big percentage of depression rates or anxiety thereabout. So I feel like particularly for our generation, going back again to the whole existence of human beings, I feel like human beings are communal beings. Human beings are people that have always loved to exist in communities or in groups. So if we come to the men, we could find ourselves in more or less in our groups. Like for instance, in the Gen Zs and Gen Alphas, major places that you could find them in groups are maybe in playstations or in groups that people work together. So like things like that. I feel like community, as has been said earlier, is a key area that could help us as well. Because if now we are together and we could get to talk more about that. But again, you realize men don't really come together to talk about stuff. So it's easier for us to talk about things when we are pursuing hobbies, but maybe like for instance, if we meet to watch a particular game, if we meet to go for a ride, for instance, if we hit the gym together, we could particularly talk about stuff. Most of this conversation as men just rise up. Sorry. Most of these conversations as men rise up in the cause of other things, not particularly men going through something or men deliberately going to meet so that we talk about something. Yeah. Again, also just to re-echo what has been said, self-reflection would particularly help us, because for me to understand, or for me to know what I'm going through, it's even easier for a psychologist, because if you go to a therapy, the therapist maybe could expound on that more. They'll just be asking, they want to ask or to know more about me. So if I am able to know about more about myself, it's easier for me to know uh, what are my weaknesses and how I can go about that, in how I can tackle my weaknesses. It's more or less like uh, the I'm forgetting the name of the book. How to go to war or something like that. Like if I know my weaknesses, I can perfect them. If I know my strengths, it's easier for me to know these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses. So this is how I'm gonna shield myself from things that the world can bring to me. Yeah. And also gratitude could help us in the manner that we appreciate the small things, or the small wins that we have on a day-to-day basis. If we are able to be grateful for even the most basic of things, that I woke up, I went out, I got the job, or I did the piece of work that I'm supposed to do, I came back home. That is a positive thing for me, and I'm able to appreciate that. That now helps us to avoid anxiety, that in future, if anxiety rises to some levels, now I start being depressed. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm particularly able to gather right now, but I can share more when, as soon as more thoughts keep coming.
So thank you so much, Job, and the point about yeah, and this is what the kind of evidence shows, that men would more likely speak when they are doing other things, not just standalone speaking, but doing when they're doing other things, when they're doing some action. So maybe then the issue in terms of developing mechanisms for seeking help and coping would be, how do we integrate this? How do we be more deliberate in terms of integrating some of the things that men, activities that men like to do, integrating also issues around conversations around mental health and well-being and distress to this, because that seems to be what the evidence suggesting, is how is that men it finds it easier to seek help in that context. Um, Alaman, the same question. What are the available coping mechanisms, and then also how to also integrate how men socialize and how men behave into how they seek help and how they cope. I hope you can now get me at me, Alaman.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I hope you got my question. Or yeah, please unmute. Yeah, go ahead, Alaman. Hello? Uh, Alaman, can you hear? I think maybe there's a network issue. So we'll go to John from a practitioner, as a mental health practitioner. And we talked about male-friendly strategies. So what are the available male-friendly services or strategies to help us in coping with the mental health issues and distress from your experience in practice? John?
Thank you, sir. Just want to echo on some of the strategies that my colleagues have shared, and also to add some that they've not shared. The first coping mechanisms that we can have is developing a strong social connection. As others have said, as a man or as a human being, we cannot exist alone. So we need each other. Therefore, as having a social support system is one of the important factors, or the strongest protection in terms of mental health, in terms of helping us address mental health issues. And some of the things that you can do is always to stay connected. Stay connected with your family members, stay connected with your friends, stay connected with your colleagues, and also stay connected with the communities and groups around your environment. One of the aspects that has killed the social connection is the aspect of the technology, because we find that most of the time we spend most of our time in phones, other than having that human connection. So we encourage, in terms of a coping strategy, we encourage people to have that in-person connection, in-person interaction, so that you are able to connect, or to be with others. And this can help if you connect well, if you develop a strong connection, then it will help in terms of reducing that the feeling of isolation. It will provide emotional support and even give you practical association. When you interact with people, you will have practical assistance, and also it will help you improve on your coping strategy, on your coping mechanism and strategies during those most difficult moments in your life. The other coping mechanism that we can think of is where we practice healthy living. Practicing healthy living by having regular physical activities, such as exercises. When we do all exercises, this has been proven to be a major method in terms of reducing stress and improving one's mood. So you can always think of having those physical exercises, like having a daily walk. You can always do a 30 minutes walk. You don't have to walk for long. Just 30 minutes is enough. As a community, we've also been, let me use in quotes the term lazy, because any movement that we want to make, will always call our border guy to take us. So can we spare maybe on a daily, do a 30 minutes walk, do some jogging. If you like cycling, well and good. If you can do swimming, well and good. If you can do other team activities, team sports, stretching and other activities, well and good. And what are the benefits of all these? If you do physical activities, then it will lower your stress hormones. It can also improve your sleep quality, and also help in terms of building your self-esteem, building your confidence, and your own emotional well-being. Um, another coping mechanism, the third one, I'll talk about building healthy thinking patterns, having a healthy thought process. We say that people who are resilient learn to challenge unhelpful thoughts and focus on realistic. It is important for us to focus on realistic things and always have a balanced perspective. Having a negative thought about yourself then will always derail you. We emphasize that having a positive perception, a positive attitude will always be helpful compared to always thinking of negative. If in a morning you wake up and you just say that my day will be bad, or the day is dull, then that particular day will be bad. But if you can always encourage if you can always encourage yourself, it will help you. Always identify the negative self-talk that you have about yourself and restructure it. Um, uh, Focus on solutions. Always focus on solutions rather than dwelling on problems. When you focus on problems, problems will always be there. But when you focus on solutions, you can always deal with that. Life is not easy, and we'll always experience challenges. When you go through a challenge, you don't need to focus on the challenge, but you can always evaluate yourself and ask yourself, what can I do? Or what did I do? What did I not do right to make me experience this? And with that, you are able to come with other ways and better ways of coping. Always practice gratitude, as someone has mentioned here. Practice gratitude by noting positive experiences each day. At the end of the day, are you able to sit down and pick some positives of the day about the day? And this can always help in reducing stress and hopelessness, and also always encourage problem solving options. Um, Self-care is also part of it. Positive coping strategy. You need to also take care of yourself. We also realize that men do forget about taking care of themselves. We'll always think of others. We'll always think about supporting our families. We'll always think about supporting other people around us, but we forget about ourselves. If you ask the men in the room, when they bought something for themselves last, some will not even remember, because we forget most about ourselves. So let's also always take care of ourselves by thinking about ourselves. If you want, maybe you feel like you want to take yourself out, do it. Do it. If you want to go swim, if you want to eat something that you like, do it. Sometimes men, we go, maybe we are eating something, we are eating a full kilo of goat, and in our mind we also remember that, oh, my kids or my family are taking sukuma wiki back at home. Yes, it's always good to remember the family, but when you also feel that you want to take care of yourself, do it. Don't fear. You can always practice relaxation exercises, learn relaxation and mindful exercises, mindful technique exercises like deep breathing and meditation, and also prayers. Sometimes it is always good to call yourself for a meeting. You can always practice progressive muscle relaxation, and even mindful walking and mindful eating. And this will also, again, help in the reduction of stress and other areas. Prioritize healthy sleep. When we talk about healthy sleep, um, um, a normal adult man needs at least between 6 to 8 hours of good sleep in a day. How many hours do you sleep? It is a way of also helping us manage our mental health. When we sleep well, then we'll always be healthy, because sleep is essential of emotional resilience, and also help in stress recovery. Maintain a regular sleep schedule. Maintain a regular sleep pattern. Don't confuse that sleep pattern, that leo melala, today you slept at 3, tomorrow you sleep at 10, the other day you sleep at. Maintain a regular sleeping schedule. Also, limit your screen time in bed. Uh, Limit your screen time, especially in bed and even before bed. Um, um, Always create a quiet and comfortable sleeping environment for yourself. You can also be able to identify, always do a SWOT analysis for yourself, where you are able to analyze your strengths, come up with your weaknesses, come up with the opportunities that you have in life, and also think about the threats, the fears that you have in life. What you can deal with and address, kindly focus on addressing and dealing with them. What you cannot, what is beyond your control, you can always find a way of avoiding. You can also strengthen your problem-solving skills. You can maintain or come up with a goal, a purpose in life, and maintain the purpose and meaning of your life. Because sometimes we end up getting stressed because we don't know what we want in life. So find a meaning in life, have a purpose in life. Um, I think if we are able to do that, then we can uh, um, we can easily take care or good care of our mental health. Thank you.
Thank you very much, John, for that comprehensive uh, um, comprehensive elucidation of that and the various mechanisms. Thomas, I hear you in terms of coping mechanisms and addressing the root cause. And I think what I would say about that is that we are. I would not think that a coping mechanism, for me, from where I stand, I think a coping mechanism is a tool that helps you also address the root cause of the issue that you're dealing with. Maybe that they might not be an either or relationship, but I think they're part of a sequence of how you relate. Yeah, it's a temporary tool, correct? But it also is a strategy too, because also having emotional safety and emotional stability helps you avoid re-traumatizing yourself, and it also helps you to now have the stability to cope with the root cause. So for me, I would not say it's an either or. We have 10 minutes to the end of our our session, and I'd like to go to all the panelists with as you make your final remarks in 1 minute or 1 minute or so. So the question is, what does healthy masculinity mean to you in the context of mental health? So what does healthy masculinity mean to you in the context of mental health, as you make also your final remarks in a minute or so? So John is on the floor, so I'll start with John.
Okay, thank you. When we talk about healthy masculinity, this is basically refers to positive, respectful, and responsible expression of being a man. I'll repeat: positive, respectful, and responsible expression of being a man. And this encourage men to develop character, emotional well-being, healthy relationships, and also even or taking or having a sense of responsibility without impacting or without it harming themselves, and even affecting the community around them. So that is my understanding of healthy masculinity. So as I wind up my parting shot, say that as men, let us not carry the burden alone. It is too heavy. And when we carry this burden alone, it might or it may overwhelm us to a point where we end up going by the statistics that was shared earlier. We may end up being part of the statistics. Therefore, we need to reach out and share. We need to reach out and talk to someone that we trust. And this also helped me to address one of the concerns that was raised in one of the charts that I saw. When we share and when we talk to people, it's not a sign of weakness. And again, if you are to share, let's share with that person that we trust. When someone shares with you, also try and observe confidentiality. Keep that information in confidential, and that will also open the space for us to share. So let's reach out to someone that we trust before the weight of of the burdens become overwhelming. So
Thank you.
men, don't struggle alone.
Thank
Come
you.
out and talk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll go to Gibson. What does healthy masculinity look like in terms of mental health?
Uh, I think in terms of mental health, it's about preserving what is adaptive and valuable, good practices, good habits, good whatever. It's about courage, competence, responsibility, and resilience. That's positive masculinity. It's about discarding those things that are not helpful, like suppressing your emotions, thinking that you have to be self-reliant no matter what, and thinking that you admitting that you are struggling, that's a sign of weakness, you know. I think positive masculinity is also about courage, about facing yourself, facing your patterns, facing the things that you're doing, your pains and all of that. It's about looking at you as a provider, because we talk a lot about men as providers, but you as the provider, can we look at you providing not just money, but providing other things? So it's a full-scale provision, not just about money, but you have to provide emotional support. You have to provide being responsible to yourself and stuff like that. And also brotherhood, in positive masculinity, brotherhood as mutual accountability. It's not about competition. It's about you looking out for your brother well-being, and I think also positive masculinity is about in regard to leadership. It's about having emotional clarity. That when you're faced with the situation, you are able to look at whatever your emotional state is, whatever the room emotional state is, and be able to make a decision that is mindful of everyone around you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gibson. Job, what does healthy masculinity look like for you in the context of mental health? Please unmute.
For me, I'd say positive masculinity looks like accepting your current state, being real or true to yourself, and forging the way forward to better and better every day. Essentially, it's just me accepting where I am right now and not allowing myself to be here forever, but to also to be cautious enough and also ambitious enough to look forward to better days ahead. Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh,
Alaman, thank you very
sure.
much, Job. Alaman, sorry, you,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
just briefly
Uh,
so that we finish.
okay. And then
Yeah.
my parting shot rather will be a question or rather a challenge to us, both men and the rest of the community, even the ladies in the room, because we have statistics that say more than 70, like 70%. Let me just read that real quick. It's a 2023 meta-analysis covering dozens of studies found that people experiencing financial stress were 74% more likely to die by suicide, while unemployed individuals were 87% more likely to do so compared to those who are financially stable or employment. So these particular statistics just shows us that if we're able to tackle financial uh, financial issue as men, we are able to just tackle a lot of these issues that are facing us, because we realize men have the burden of being the providers in the society. So even at the community level, if you're able to provide more of financial help or economic guidance or mentorship rather, we can able to tackle majorly what we are facing. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Alaman, what does healthy masculinity mean to you in the context of mental health? I don't know. Alaman?
I think healthy masculinity for me is that balance between strength and humanity. Of course, there are those perceptions of the way a man should be, but I think, in my perspective, a man can be courageous and still gentle. You know, you can still be protective and emotionally open as well. We can still be ambitious and mentally well. So it's that perfect, trying to have that balance between
Okay.
strength and humanity, just being able to be you know, just being able to have healthy relationships, seeking help when need be, of course, being emotionally aware and being able to express yourself. That for me will define healthy masculinity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alaman. So we've come to the end of our session today, and maybe you could appreciate our panel by the emoji claps on this one here for their time and their insights. Let's give them a round of applause for their very important insights. So we've talked about the barriers men face in openly discussing mental health in our communities and how this differ across generations. We've talked about uh, the issues around culture and tradition. Also talking about safe spaces, how do we create them? We've had clinical perspectives on how men seek help. We've also had issues around societal expectations of masculinity and how this cause some of the major distress, stress, depression, burnout. We've also talked about coping strategies and mechanisms that are available, and also practical steps to support men's well-being. And also, last we've also talked about issues around healthy masculinity. So thank you very much for turning up. And we hope with this conversation will continue. And I'd like to hand over back to our convener, Nerea, and her team for the close of the session. Thank you very much for all of you and for having me as your moderator. Back to you, Nerea.
Uh, Thank you very much, Diambo, for this wonderful discussion. I know it is a start, but one of the things I've picked is that there is need for us to have such kind of discussion where we have men. Let's talk about mental health, wellness, and probably how the society can be able to support for them to be able to access spaces, safe spaces where they can be able to just talk. So from my end, I'm very grateful for this opportunity. Thank you, Alaman. Thank you, John Paul. Thank you, Job. And thank you, Gibson. It has really been indeed a great afternoon. I hope the participants have picked one or two um, conversations that are going to be helpful in their spaces. I think this is something that is just starting. We are going to be able to make it more interesting and continuous. As we end the month of
May I
June,
say something?
yes, sure.
Yeah, I think let me just also appreciate all of us also in the clapping emoji or the love emoji. Appreciate Inuka and Isisi for this space, this safe space that we've had today. And like I said, this is the first time we've had this kind of conversation targeting men that I can remember in this kind of context. So thanks to Inuka and the wellness program, and to Nerea and her team for putting this together. And we hope that there'll be many more of this on an ongoing basis, especially focusing on men who sometimes feel unheard and neglected in terms of discussions on mental health. So I just wanted to say we really appreciate you having us, and we hope that there'll be many more regularly in terms of having these conversations, both online, offline, and in other spaces. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I think our next conversation we'll be able to look at what are some of the practical tools that we can be able to adopt to sustain our wellness. So from my end, thank you, everybody. And I think I can allow everybody to take a rest now. Thank you.